We're here with Dr. Tim Woods of Kentucky. Dr. Woods, you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes, thanks, Ben. I'm Tim Woods, Extension Professor at the University of Kentucky in the Ag Economics Department, and appreciate a chance to come visit with you.
You started the Market Ready program, which has since kind of spread across the country. Can you talk about what's behind the program and how it got started in your state?
Yeah, it's a number of years ago. We had, of course, a lot of interest and growth in our farmers markets, a lot of vendors that were very successful in that kind of space, a lot of consumer interest in the local products in these local markets. Mm-hmm. And a lot of our farmers were either seeing maturity in those markets or kind of outgrowing those, or more particularly really kind of interested in seeing if there were some market opportunities beyond the farmers markets themselves. And at the same time, we were seeing from a lot of our local retailers, the restaurants, the grocers, particularly, a lot of interest in the local products there as well. They were hearing it from their customers. They knew from their customers that they wanted more local products. The challenge was we were seeing a lot of difficulty either from the farmer's point of view, the producers not really knowing what the buyers were looking for, how do we approach them, what's really involved. Selling into those commercial market channels, right, very different from selling in a farmer's market. Farmer's market tends to be much more cash-based, relational, much smaller scale, 3 tomatoes at a time across the card table. Yeah. Moving into those commercial markets, the expectations were very different. While the buyers were saying, we see huge demand and significant opportunity to promote more local, source more local products, they had a long history of difficulties with some of the local producer vendor suppliers. A lot of the producers that were kind of new to it hadn't really thought through things like insurance and packaging and quality assurance expectations and the logistics of delivery and all these different aspects, but key business functions that the buyers were saying, this is really important to us. And so we saw this kind of an opportunity to help provide some technical assistance in trying to first better understand what the buyers were going to be identifying as the best practices associated with these different business functions. Big, extensive interview process with chefs, with grocers, wholesalers, later school food service directors about what they saw as the best practices around some of these key business functions that they identified, and then weaving that together into this market-ready training program that would allow us then to, in a sort of a structured environment, communicate to the growers, here's what these buyers are looking for. And when it comes to packaging, they need these kinds of standards. When it comes to insurance, they need these kinds of things to be put in place. And typically when they're sourcing with the vendor, they expect these invoicing and business-to-business relationships to be pretty much standardized. And I think really helpful for our producers just to give them a much better sense of anticipation when they go and started those conversations with those buyers, to have thought through already, here are all these different key business functions and expectations that they had on the front end. Greatly facilitated the local producer to local buyer opportunities there. In Kentucky, we've had over 800 folks now that we've taken through that training program, and as you've indicated here, it's now been adapted now to over 15 states that have used some version of the Market Ready program, adapted it to their different programs, and I think it's filled a need. It's been something I think really successful, and we continue to adapt it as we've seen a lot of interest and opportunity in the local food space.
Yeah, I can definitely say that here in Virginia we've had a lot of interest and a lot of success. So thank you, by the way.
Yeah.
So in Kentucky, one of the real strengths of your program is keeping those buyers involved and integrated into the trainings. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Right. I think that's one of the most important selling points to the training, and it really helps the producers to kind of lean in with a little bit of ear to what really is going on, that it's not just a textbook business school best practices, but it's really a buyer-driven here's really what we need. We need this kind of invoicing deal set up, this kind of attention to the delivery. The buyers play so many important roles, not just in the design of the best practices there, but really even as we deliver particular trainings, they come out and participate. We almost always will have a buyer panel, typically 3, 4, as many as 5 different buyers. That'll be a restaurant chef, a grocer, distributor, school food service director, somebody like that is there saying, yes, all these things that we're talking about here today really are important. This is how we work with our local producers in our buying space. We've had these successes here, and yes, indeed, this is why this is so important to have this quality assurance issue worked out. Don't be afraid to talk about pricing. Yes, indeed. Just like we talked about in the training program, we talk about pricing in this way, and here's how we go about negotiating that. So for them to hear it from the buyers firsthand, I think really gives the producers and participants a much stronger comfort level, takes away some of the anxiety and maybe intimidation factor about what's involved moving into these commercial channels. So, the buyers play a hugely important role. I would say, finally, the things that we've developed more recently include actually a Meet the Buyer program. So our Market Ready alumni, once they go through the training program, they're eligible to come and participate in this Meet the Buyer forum. So we'll dedicate a half a day to just these producer-buyer exchanges in different places around the state. That's been phenomenally successful. Just lots and lots of new contacts. By far, the most exciting thing for me in those Meet the Buyer programs is you see the producers coming up with their little checklist. They've gone through the Market Ready training. They've got all these things thought through ahead of time, and they are prepared. And that's really Market Ready is kind of our goal with that program. And it has certainly, we hear it from the buyers, from the different agency partners that we work with, that the program's been very, very helpful getting our producers kind of up to speed with moving into these commercial market channels.
You mentioned earlier we have 15 market-ready states. It seems like getting more every year. So for somebody who wants to bring the program or bring a similar type of training to their state, do you have any advice for somebody who's getting started?
I think it's a very adaptable program. We found in Kentucky finding those key partners that are already deeply invested into the local foods development efforts are really important people to have at the table. Very commonly, it's going to at least involve somebody from your State Department of Ag marketing program. In Kentucky, we have our Kentucky Department of Ag and a Kentucky Proud program. We have currently over 6,000 registered Kentucky Proud food firms and farms that are all trying to kind of work together, and to have agencies like the Kentucky Department of Ag, like the Co-op Development Center in Kentucky. It's the Kentucky Center for Ag and Rural Development, Small Business Development Center type agencies that are doing business development support. All these different people that you can point the producers to for resources for everything from social media development and marketing, labeling development, packaging people. State departments of ag very commonly have their own unique state-specific promotion programs or marketing programs that they want to plug producers into. I think Market Ready provides a fantastic platform to introduce those programs and kind of help the producers put those programs into the context of a bigger marketing plan that they're trying to develop. Getting those key agencies involved. I think the other thing that is probably important to do is to identify at the start a small core group of buyers, chefs in the restaurant space, grocers, that are really, really excited about the local food system development and really committed to patiently working with some of these producers to help build their capacity and really kind of jointly willing to invest in developing a program that will help lead to kind of a long-term success, that can kind of see a longer-term vision of developing that producer capacity around this market readiness. Start there with that kind of core group of of buyers and agency people. And I mean, you can really sort of go through those same business functions. I know you guys in Virginia, you've been out talking to chefs and other kinds of buyers and getting lots of really good examples of how buyers are putting together their local sourcing programs. And every story is different in each place. Having those kind of local examples really, I think, also helps make a stronger connection for the producers, where they'll say, I know that restaurant, or I know that grocery store, and I know so-and-so's able to do that. If they can do that, surely I could do that. I think that's bringing that kind of local context and storytelling into the training program, hugely helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree. There's plenty of stuff that folks who are in the industry that they know that those of us in extension wouldn't have occurred to us if they hadn't said anything.
Right.
What do you think what's the new trend or the new issue that you think folks should be aware of in the direct marketing sector?
There's several things, and it's such a dynamic and rapidly changing world. Just how consumers are sourcing their food is changing so fast. You've got the home delivery programs, all the e-commerce and technology things, all the food safety things we've discussed before, and different ways to manage that. And then how does that play out in the context of these local producer, local buyer relationships, trying to keep up with kind of the latest issues, but also the kind of the latest opportunities, I think, that are out there to either do better storytelling and better marketing and communication around the local foods program, or in the case of food safety, what sort of better management practices, or if it even has to involve a third-party audit, or whatever that's going to need to look like, helping producers and even buyers understand what some of the options are there for them. My experience has been with the Market Ready program. We're constantly adapting it and trying to bring in updated tools. We do have more and more participants that are in our training programs that are actually somewhat experienced producers that have had some experience in these commercial market channels, but they're coming to these trainings because they want to know what is the latest around these conversations with these buyers about what their expectations are with packaging. Can we use plastic reusable containers? On and on. You know, so many. Are the insurance and risk questions changing in terms of expectations? And whether you're a buyer, whether you're a producer, whether you're in extension trying to keep up with the training programs, as I say, it's a very dynamic market, lots changing. But with the Market Ready program, I think it creates a platform, at least, where you can kind of plug in and update some things. If you have to do some advanced topic webinars or special session kinds of things, those are plug and play opportunities, I think, there. And plenty of opportunities, I think, to kind of build around special topic needs or state-specific needs or market-specific needs. You know, we've talked before, too, about folks in doing direct marketing of meat may have different needs from dairy, may have different needs from fresh produce and value-added products and specialty foods. And so adapting the training, I think, to some of the particular business function needs and market channel needs to help those relationships be successful. Lots of opportunity, I think, to kind of be updating materials and adapting materials to meet the need there.
Absolutely. We have yet to outrun the consumer, that's for sure.
Absolutely, yep.
Alrighty. Well, Dr. Woods, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you for all your work.
My pleasure.
Part of the
thank you, guys.